guys? Welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, going to go over an article titled, Most Young Men Are Single, Most Young Women Are Not. And guys, this article popped up this morning. It's brand new from The Hill. I was having my coffee and I saw this and I said, oh, I got to cover this one. And sure enough, I had 3 different guys in the course of 10 minutes send me this article. So I'm definitely jumping on this now. This is all about the big mystery. Why so many young men are now single. Why so many young men are no longer interested in dating. Now, we all know, the majority know the answer to that question, but clearly the media is confused. But this article is also going to cover why also so many young men, not the majority, but a lot, are really backing out of society. That they become loners, keeping themselves, not just hanging out with their bros, just isolating. And that's a definite concern that many have, and also it's an important one to address because you got a lot of very unhappy young men out there. And sadly, some of these young guys will end up eventually offing themselves or doing some very awful things that I can't mention here on YouTube. And so I'm going to go through this article here, and you're going to see what they're talking about and all that. But real quick, before I go into it, let's address the 2 main issues of this article. Why so many young men aren't dating, are single, and why so many men are checking out, particularly young men. Well, when it comes to the checking out part, you are all well aware that we're in a society right now that men have for a while now, and sadly still, are treated in many ways like second-class citizens. And the young guys are well aware of this. And when people are treated that way, they tend to back away. Look at the schools with the young boys. It's well known that the schools really are favoring the girls. You see it all the time, right? I hear about it all the time. So from the get-go, young boys are made to feel they're not as important, okay? I'm not saying girls aren't important, but when they leave the boys out, you got a lot of boys left behind, and that's wrong. That's a problem. When you have, like I said, in regards to men being treated like second-class citizens, you see it all the time in the portrayal of men in the movies, television, all that, the narrative. Men bad, women good. And that's nonsense. Look how men are portrayed in the movies like idiots, amongst many other things. Terrible. You got so many young guys out there that are raised in single-parent households. Mom generally is the one that gets the children, and even though she could love her boy or boys, care for them, provide, take care of them, try her best, the good ones, still, the young boy needs that masculine role model, ideally a father. And if the father isn't there, grandfather, uncle, to provide a masculine, as a masculine guide. These boys don't have that, and so they're lost, they're aimless. And you put all these things together, it's no wonder so many young boys just feel lost, hopeless, all that, and they eventually fall into deep depression, back away, and a lot of awful things can happen. I'm not saying everybody's like this, but you get my point. That's one part of the article. Now, the other part is why so many young men aren't interested in dating and relationships. Well, when you have so many young gals out there, I'm going to go through 3 main reasons that have such a demanding, high and mighty attitude. That's a big turnoff. What do I mean by that? Demanding that they are entitled to certain types of guys. The guys that the old 6s, 6 feet tall, 6-figure income, 6-pack, and let's add in, how about 6 inches or more down south, 5 master's degrees, speaks 7 foreign languages, makes $250,000 a year to start, $1 million house. I can go on and on. I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. Only a small percentage of guys out there are going to qualify for that. So it's mathematically impossible. But when they become so demanding and entitled to that type of guy, and in general, that's going to turn guys off. When you have so many gals that are, thanks to feminism, that have become very masculine, they've been conditioned to embrace their masculine side, the whole equality thing, again, that's going to turn guys off because guys aren't going to be out on a date with a girl that acts more of a dude than he does. And the last one is how a lot of the gals behave online. They literally are working the social media street corners. How they behave on Instagram, TikTok, or even go so far as things like OnlyFans. Flaunting their bodies, all these things. No guy wants that as a girlfriend or even someone to date. So you put those all together, is there any wonder that so many young guys are walking away? They're going to focus on themselves, focus on hanging out with their bros, if they're not isolating. So that's what's really going on here. And again, you can combine them all. And where does it all generally come from? feminism. Really, if you really dig deep. But anyhow, guys, I know I went on long enough, but I had to say what I had to say. So I'm going to go through this article here, and you'll see the media's perspective and views in this whole thing. It starts off, it says here, more than 60% of young men are single, nearly twice the rate of unattached young women, signaling a larger breakdown in the social, romantic, and S-word life of the American male. Men in their 20s are more likely than women in their 20s to be romantically uninvolved, sexually dormant, friendless, and lonely. They stand at the vanguard of an epidemic of declining marriage, sexuality, and relationships that afflicts all young America. Well, all these things are happening. That part is accurate. And like I said at the beginning, there's reasons behind that. It says here, we're in a crisis of connection, says Neoble Way, a psychology professor and founder of the Project for the Advancement of Our Common Humanity at New York University. It says here, disconnection from ourselves and disconnection from each other, and it's getting worse. Again, why is that? In the worst case scenario, the young American man's social disconnect can have tragic consequences. Young men commit offing themselves at 4 times the rate of young women. Younger men are largely responsible for the rising rates of, I can't say this because it's YouTube, but doing awful things where a lot of people die. A trend some researchers link to a growing social isolation. And that is sadly happened too many times, and it's so unfortunate. And the guys that go that far need to burn in fucking hell, in my opinion. But anyhow, it says societal changes that began in the Eisenhower years have eroded the patriarchy that once ruled the American home, classroom, and workplace. Women now collect nearly 60% of bachelor's degrees. Men still earn more, but among the young adults, the income gap has narrowed to $43 a week. Well, you got more and more high-earning women out there with high positions, more bachelor's degrees, it says here. So again, back to the whole earning gap thing. Scholars say the new era of gender parity has reshaped relationship dynamics, empowering young women and in many cases removing young men from the equation. Right there. Removing young men from the equation. They're treated like second-class citizens. They don't matter. And when you have so many gals going around with the attitude, or the ones that lead a lot of these gals saying, they don't need men, I don't need men. So guys are like, okay, why am I going to be involved? It says here, women don't need to be in long-term relationships. Yeah, well, a lot aren't. They don't need to be married. They'd rather go to brunch with friends and have a horrible date, says Greg Matos, a couple and family psychologist in LA, who recently penned a viral article titled, What's Behind the Rise of Lonely Single Men? Well, again, I explained that at the beginning. The social media street corners that so many hang out on, high and mighty demanding attitudes, and of course, acting masculine. And there are other things, but those are the main 3. No guy wants to be involved with that. Recent years have seen a historical rise in unpartnered Americans, particularly among the young. The pandemic made things worse. Pandemic definitely made things worse. As of 2022, Pew Research Center found that 30% of U.S. adults are neither married, living in a partner, nor engaged in a committed relationship. Nearly half of young adults are single, 34% of women, and a whopping 63% of men. So they're going to question who are all these gals dating if the guys aren't dating. Well, they're either all taking their turns with the small percentage of guys they really want, which mathematically they all can't have, or they're with older guys, which older women hate younger gals dating older guys, but guess what? That's been happening since the beginning of time. Or they're dating each other because you got a lot of bisexual females out there. It says here, only half of single men are actively seeking relationships or even casual dates, according to Pew. That figure is declining. It says here, you have to think that the pandemic had an impact on some of those numbers, said Fred, I can't pronounce his last name, a psychologist and professor at the University of Redlands who studies masculinity. He studies masculinity, huh? Well, he should be well aware there's been a war on masculinity that's been labeled toxic. And there are certain behaviors certainly that can be categorized as toxic, I'll be fair here. But a lot of things that are traditional masculinity, which is a good thing, have been labeled bad and made young boys to feel that they're wrong for behaving in what comes natural to them. Young men are watching a lot of social media. They're watching a lot of porn. and I think they're getting a lot of their needs met without having to go out. And I think that's starting to be a habit. A lot of guys out there are addicted to the PORN. It has very, very damaging effects. Even seasoned researchers struggle to fully account for the relationship gap between young women and men. If a single young man outnumbers single young women nearly 2 to 1, then who are all the young women dating? It says here some of them are dating each other. 1/5 of Generation Z identifies as queer, and research suggests that bisexual women make up a large share of the young adult queer community. Young women are also dating and marrying slightly older men, carrying on a tradition that stretches back more than a century. Young women dating older men goes way longer than a century. Come on here. The average age of the first marriage is around 30 years old for men and 28 for women, according to the census figures. I find that very hard to believe. How many stories have I covered where guys who got married ridiculously young, way younger than 30? And by the way, that's why I say if you're going to get married, right here, wait until you're 30 years old. So at least you got to spend a lot of time with her, really learning what she's like, what her family's like, what her friends are like, established yourself, got money set aside, experience, and by then you may realize, maybe I don't want to get married. It says heterosexual women are getting more choosy. You think. Women don't want to marry down, to form a long-term relationship to a man with less education and earnings than herself, said Ronald Levant, professor of psychology at the University of Akron and author of several books on masculinity. What I tell you guys, they always want somebody that's higher up than them. Money, earning potential, degrees, status, all that. But it's interesting, but it's perfectly okay for us. I mean, it's perfectly okay for them to have a guy that's higher than them, but God forbid they date a guy that they see as less than them. Maybe not as maybe a guy who doesn't have a master's degree. He may have a bachelor's, she has a master's, or makes less than her, then oh no. It's nonsense. But if it's true equality, then a gal that can be involved with and marry a guy that makes less money than her. He doesn't have as many degrees as she has, or you get the point, but nope. It says in previous generations, young women entered adulthood in a society that expected them to find a financially stable man who would support them through the decades of marriage and motherhood. Over the 1950s and 60s, that pattern gradually broke down, and today it's all but gone. Women are tiring of the stereotypical role as full-time therapists for emotionally distant men. They want a partner who is emotionally open and empathetic, the opposite of the age-old masculine ideal. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but all you're well aware, when a man behaves in the way that these gals say they want the guy to be, right here, what happens? They lose attraction. When a man gets too open, and I'm not saying a guy couldn't and shouldn't listen to his girl when she's got things on her mind, that's fine. But when a man starts acting very emotional and feminine, it turns him off. What do I mean by that? Crying, pouring out all his insecurities and fears. It's a bad way to go. Trust me. Now, a guy shouldn't keep that all bottled up. He needs to talk to people he can trust, like maybe his father or his bros, people that have his back that aren't going to blab his secrets. He shouldn't keep it all bottled up. But going to your lady, making her your therapist, bad idea. It will turn them off every time. And if people don't believe me on that, and people always give me shit about that, then go do it. Go be that guy. Behave the same way that the women act when they're emotional, pouring out your feelings, emotions, fears, cry, all that. Watch how bad things go with your relationship. And remember, women often say they want one thing, but respond through their actions to something else. So you can't take what women say what they want in men. You just pay attention to what they do, not what they say. So today in America, women expect more from men. Really? Levant said, and unfortunately so many men don't have more to give. Well, guess what? Not every guy wants to have a PhD. And not every guy is going to be making $500,000 a year. And not every guy is going to have more than 6 inches down south. And not every guy's going to be walking around with a six-pack. But here's the thing, they talk about they expect more. Well, the question always is, okay, if you expect so much more, what do you bring to the table? Really? And I don't want to hear, I have this degree or degrees, I make this much money, I have this status in this company, I'm on the rise. Guess what? That's not going to make our you-know-whats get hard. What's going to make our you-know-whats get hard and us be interested in you, are you feminine? Are you loyal? Are you fun to be around? Do you have a positive attitude? Do you take care of your body? Are you supportive of me? All these things. Not your degree, how much money you make. That doesn't turn us on. That may turn women on, but doesn't turn guys on. Don't get me wrong, it's nice. You're a marriage guy and you relationship and your wife makes a lot of money and she's cool, has all these positive traits and she does well for herself. Hey, that makes your life easier, of course, but it's not going to drive us towards women. No. It comes back down to the very basics of what we're attracted to. The same emotional deficits that hurt men in the dating pool also hamper them in forming meaningful friendships. 15% of men report having no close friendships, a 5-fold increase from 1990, according to research by the Survey Center on American Life. Well, again, I can believe that given how more and more men from an early age are made to feel like they're second-class citizens. The schools don't focus as much on the boys. They feel lonely. They feel depressed. They don't get the attention they need. Single-parent households, they don't have a father there to help guide them. Because let's be honest, moms are much easier on boys. Boys need a father to give them a kick in the ass from time to time because moms are generally tougher on the daughters. And we all know, anybody who grew up in a house with a sister knows this, okay? Believe me, my mom was way easier on me than my sister. And my dad was always tougher on me, which he needed to, and I thank him for that, than my sister. But also, let's look at also social media. Kids that were born and raised in social media don't have the social skills of us that were born and raised when there wasn't social media. It goes on. It says here, and this is quoting the guy here, men are less naturally relational than women, says Richard Rees, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute, whose new book of Boys and Men has drawn a wide praise. Rees points out to a recent Saturday Night Live sketch that reimagined the neighborhood dog park as Man Park, poking fun at the reliance of men on women to do the emotional lifting for them. Well, naturally, men and women are different, obviously, in so many areas, but women are more about connecting and bonding and all that, and guys are less. That's just how we are. It's not right or wrong, it's just how we're different. And it's okay for men and women to be different. That's what attracts us to each other. It says your social circles have been shrinking for men and women, especially since the pandemic, but men struggle more. 30 years ago, 55% of men reporting having 6 or more close friends. By 2021, that share has slipped to 27%. And that's a huge drop, but again, I definitely say there's a lot of factors in that. One part social media, definitely, because people just don't communicate like they used to. Think about it, when you go out anywhere, back in the day, people would talk to each other. Now people are on their phone all the time. There's no talking, no engaging. And if you're raised that way, it affects you into adulthood. And also, like I said in the beginning, reasons why so many guys are checking out and become much more isolated is because from an early age, they feel like they're not important. And a lot of a hard time connecting. It's unfortunate. It says here, Aaron Caro and Matt Ritter, both in their early 40s, studied the male friendship recession in their Man of the Year podcast. It arose out of an annual tradition of gathering at a steakhouse with several male friends, all close since elementary school. Guys are taught to prioritize career, Caro said, also romantic relationships, although it doesn't seem like they're doing a very good job at that. Making friends and keeping friends seems to be a lower priority. And once guys get older, they suddenly realize they have no friends. Well, the whole prioritizing career is purpose-driven. It's just how we are. Men are more, honestly, it really goes back a long time. Purpose, ambitions, goals, making something yourself, conquering, if you will. While women traditionally are more bonding and connecting, emotional connection, the family, that type of thing. But yeah, a lot of guys as they get older have less and less friends because a lot of guys realize, number one, they don't need that as much as women do. And believe me, I can relate. And also, many guys probably realize that after a lot of life experience, I'd rather have a couple close friends that I can really have my back, they're going to screw me over, than a whole bunch of friends that I have to worry about starting drama, who's really my friend and all that. I'd rather have 2 really good friends that could have my back than 100 guys that you never know. You could have fun with, but you never quite trust. And also, the longer we live, us guys, we get sick and tired of all the bullshit out in the world. So we want to kind of step away from all that as much as we can and be in our man cave. So the podcasters and their friends created the annual gathering as a way to keep their friendships alive. It spawned a year-round group chat and a Man of the Year trophy awarded to the most deserved friend at an annual dinner. says here, we treat friendship as a luxury, especially men. Ritter said it's a necessity. So anyway, guys, quick article. Goes to show you people are paying attention, noticing so many guys are stepping out, both relationships and dating, and also kind of societies in general. And you can't blame the guys. But the thing is this, like I said at the beginning, I'll address it again, why so many young guys are done with relationships and dating, all that, because they see what's around them. They see, number one, the demanding attitude out there. You've all seen that. I'm so important. I'm God's gift to the world. That's the attitude that so many, not all, but so many young gals seem to have nowadays. And demanding everything, which mathematically is impossible in terms of all these guys to meet those expectations. Two, so many acting masculine, because let's be honest, the feminist movement now is about, many aspects of the modern feminist movement is about emasculating guys and trying to make everybody equal. Men behave like women behave like men are turned off by women and act like men. And three, so many gals choosing to pursue the social media street corners, flaunting all their parts on social media, begging for attention. That turns guys off. That's not relationship material. So that's why we checked out there. And of course, the fact that also young guys are seeing, guess what? Look at all the marriages that end up in divorce. Why would I want to do that? I've seen my father go through a hell of a divorce, uncles, cousins, maybe older brothers. I'm not going through that crap. Oh no. Or seeing the drama that their friends have gone through, or they themselves, the bullshit they've gone through, being cheated on and hurt, again, by, it doesn't make a difference if it's the modern age or 100 years ago. At the end of the day, men are men, women are women, and do what they do, but you get my point. And they'd rather be on their own, hanging out with their bros, pursuing their goals, ambitions, all that, and maybe later on in life, they'll do relationships, as I encourage guys to do. Or a lot of young guys maybe aren't doing the relationship thing because they're realizing, you know what? That didn't get anybody else anywhere, so I'm going to focus on my goals, bettering myself, and down the road, when I'm ready, I've established myself, then maybe I'll pursue those things. And as for the guys checking out, again, can you blame them? From guys now are made about to be second-class citizens in so many levels, and you see this everywhere you go. And you see this on TV, movies, you name it. And in the schools, much more attention now is focused on the girls. That makes young guys feel like crap. And then again, the young guys don't have the role model. So many single-parent households. And it's unfortunate because young guys need a dad. The same way, if you had a father that had the kids, a young girl needs her mom. Needs that feminine role model. The single parent can't do it all. And studies have shown that the kids benefit the most when the two parents are there in the household. But unfortunately, you see how things go. And so I'm going to wrap this up saying this. To all the young guys that are watching this now, because I'm going to have tens of thousands of guys watching this all over the world, and you're feeling alone and isolated and hopeless, understand, there are those out there just like you. And plenty of guys get it. I get it. And the tens of thousands dudes out there that are watching this, they get it too. You're not as alone as you think. But you can't lock yourself away and hate the world. We can blame you, but you gotta get yourself out there. It doesn't mean you have to date and do relationships. Trust me, don't worry about that. But you can't lock yourself away because it's really just gonna have a negative effect on your whole life. And some guys, I don't want any of you guys to end up doing some awful things to yourselves or to the world. Okay? And if you're feeling lost, get help. Talk to somebody. There has to be somebody you know that cares. Get out there. Get yourself out there. Go out for a walk, something, and get yourself on the path towards self-improvement. Okay? I want to do what I can. I'll do my part here to help young guys out. But I can't do everything. You got to help yourselves. So, wrapping that up, I thought that'd be a pretty good article to cover. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below what you think about this. And for you guys out there, young guys, middle-aged guys, older guys that no longer date, do relationships that this article's talking about, let's hear your reasons. Is it because of the high and mighty, I'm God's gift to the world delusional attitude? Is that one of the reasons why that so many young gals, or many gals, have nowadays? Is that one reason? Or is it because so many are becoming just so masculine that turns you off? Is that another reason? Or is it because so many are working the social media street corners that turns you off because that's not girlfriend material? Is that the reason? Or all the reasons? Let's hear it in the comments section because I know you guys are going to read this. And I'm certainly going to read it. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.